What he did with that French toast was an atrocity. I would never throw pancakes or French toast or even waffles. I think pancakes are better than waffles. That's a really big question, which one's better. But French toast is the top of the line of all three breakfast items. And, oh man, he committed a huge
I will
sin.
argue with... No, I say waffles.
You think
I'm
waffles
going waffles
are better?
Waffles
Wow.
because they're crispy on the outside and fluffy on the... If they're made right, crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside.
Podcast
And
over.
you can... Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of the Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot
Make yourself a grasshopper
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great because we just watched Season 3, Episode 3, The Gothowitz Deviation.
Oh, yeah.
For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob, this is my co-host Ryan, and we are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, I've seen this series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. And Ryan has also been told he's very similar to Sheldon.
Sheldon.
So we keep a point tally of how close he is to being Sheldon.
And that is at 71 points total for me being not like him, and 75 points me being like him. So right now I am leaning towards being like him.
Yeah, it's starting to grow a little bit more too.
Yeah, it could. It might go back. We don't, anything's possible.
Guess we'll see. No spoilers on
No
that.
spoilers.
Well, a little housekeeping before we dive in. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com, and we will read your email out regardless if it's bad or not. But if it's bad, try to be humane.
Yeah.
We would appreciate that.
Feelings.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Let's try to bring the energy this time around. I actually just finished editing the Jiminy conjecture, and it was very apparent that we were tired. So sorry, everybody, for that.
It was kind of a lackluster episode, though.
I think that's what it comes down to. Is like I didn't really enjoy the episode, so talking about it wasn't the most pleasant experience.
We did our best.
Yeah. But good thing I loved this episode.
This was a good episode, where the Jiminy, had a cricket chase. Like, that, it made no sense. I felt like the storylines in this episode, they made sense, and they had some development and some interesting character depth. I liked it.
Both storylines, both A plot and B plot, were both funny and entertaining. They both went somewhere. They both made sense.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like a really just all-around good episode.
Agreed.
IQ point wise, I only found 3 of them though.
That's one of them's more of a half, but 2.5, or maybe 1. I mean, 2.5, maybe 3, maybe 2. I don't know, somewhere between 2
I'm
and 3.
losing IQ points now.
-1 IQ point. Dun, dun, dun.
Big Bang, you owe us IQ points. All right, well, shall we get started?
Yeah.
All right, this is Season 3, Episode 3, The Gothowitz Deviation, aired October 5th, 2009, which is very fitting. It's kicking off the spooky season of Halloween with a Goth episode. And written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Maria Ferrari, and directed by Mark Sandrowski. And if memory serves me, I feel like this is only the second episode written by a woman. I feel like they're all there was one episode in Season 1, I think, that was written by a woman, and so just something that it just caught my mind.
It caught my attention too. I'm like, oh, we don't see women. I now that you say that, there's only been one other episode. I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. But definitely when I saw Maria, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't turn up very often. So
yeah. Well, I forgot. I'll have to look up what that episode was, but I remember that last episode wasn't very good. I remember we didn't really like it, but this one, Bravo, Maria. Well played on this one. Well, opening scene, we're in the apartment kitchen, and Penny is jamming out and making French toast. And it looks like hers and Leonard's sexual chemistry is on point now, because she is vibing. Enter Sheldon, and Penny is playful and wants him to dance with her. But Sheldon doesn't dance. Even within the multiverse, where there are infinite number of Sheldons, he doesn't dance. However, the math would suggest that he's a clown made of candy in one of the universes, but either way, he still doesn't dance. And she offers him French toast, but he denies it because it's oatmeal day.
Oatmeal day.
Enter Leonard, and he says he forgot to give Penny his schedule. I kind of laughed at that. And Sheldon thought that the conjugal visits would be taking place at Penny's, but it turns out that her bed broke.
That really stresses that their sexual relationship has been kicked up a notch. The awkwardness has played it out, and they are breaking beds. Good for them.
Breaking beds. Yep. Well, Penny and Sheldon have some great banter. He wants oatmeal, and she wants a boyfriend whose roommate isn't a huge pain in the ass. And I love the little snarkiness. I'm sure that will happen soon enough. And all of Penny's facial expressions are just so on point.
Yeah,
during that scene.
Pulls it off. Everything that he says, her responses are just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude, come on. Just have some fucking French toast. Well, Penny and Leonard leave defeated, and great moments where Sheldon says, wow, this does smell good. But too bad it's oatmeal day, and he throws it all away.
So I got two things. I have an IQ point here, and I have a point of me being not like Sheldon. That what he did with that French toast was an atrocity. I would never throw pancakes or French toast or even waffles. I think pancakes are better than waffles. That's a really big question, which one's better. But French toast is the top of the line of all three breakfast items. And, oh man, he committed a huge
I will
sin.
argue with... No, I say waffles.
You think waffles are better?
Waffles,
Wow.
because they're crispy on the outside and fluffy on the... If they're made right, crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside.
Podcast
and
over.
You can... Get out of here. We're no longer friends. What betrayal is this? So when you come visit, you're getting waffles, you bitch.
Oh God, no! Just give me oatmeal. No, I like waffles a lot.
What if I
too.
infuse them? What if I do a French toast waffle?
Ooh, the best of both worlds.
I'll do it. For you, I'll do it.
Ooh. You could shoot my reaction eating them.
Yeah. We'll have cameras everywhere in the house. I'll shoot you doing everything.
Oh, nice. I'm a star. So yeah, that was my 1 point for being not like Sheldon. My IQ point was Sheldon calls Leonard a homunculus. For some reason, I want to keep wanting to call this word homunculus with like a her, but it's homunculus. And I was kind of confused because what they said is not what I knew it to be. Leonard says that it's a perfectly formed mini human, and that's not ever what I've heard. And but I researched it, and like the first things that come up are like little clay figures of like human beings, and technically, it says they said in the show that they're perfectly formed, but these statues are definitely not. They're like oversized hands, almost like caricatures of people. And there's a lot of history behind them. I mean, we even date to Jewish folklore where technically the golem is a homunculus, right? That the rabbi
Because he's humanoid, but he has like exaggerated features.
Yeah, and he's being brought to life from nothing, right? I believe even Frankenstein has been considered a homunculus at once. Someone I was talking to. But apparently the word means little person. And the way I've known it, which is technically partially true too, is that in alchemy, it was like one of the great achievements that people strive for. The big thing with alchemy was the main goal was to turn lead into gold or anything into gold. And there was this notion that there was a stone, the alchemy stone, or if you read J.K. Rowling, the philosopher's stone, which has come to be known, but I've always known it as the alchemy stone. It's supposed to be like this red stone that if you use it, somehow it can turn lead into gold. But it can also bring a non-humanoid figure to life, like the golem, or you know, dolls, I guess, human dolls. And the notion is these are creatures that do not have souls. And this comes up a lot if you ever watch the show Full Metal Alchemist, which I love. I adore that show. It's been a long time since I've watched it. And I need to watch Brotherhood because I heard Brotherhood's even better. It's like a reboot, right?
I'm not that sure. I've seen it on like some ads and everything like that, but I haven't watched it because it's been really hard to watch animated stuff in my house just because my wife just will not watch it. And then the kid dominates the TV with his crap. So it's like when I don't have time to watch anything that I really want to.
So you get to watch his cartoons, but not your cartoons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
Full
sounds
Metal
fair.
might be a little out of the age range, just a smidge.
But it's a good show, and apparently there are creatures in it called homunculus, and they look like humans, but they have slightly off features, and apparently they don't have souls, so they're kind of antagonists trying to get a stone to bring souls back to them, or to gain souls, or something like that. I'm probably paraphrasing or summarizing horribly, but yeah, they're in that. And I just thought it was interesting that I never knew that they were considered to be small people, or perfectly formed small people. I always considered them to be imperfect, not soulless beings. And apparently it's both of those. But if anybody has more information on the history of homunculus and the small clay statues, or want to add something to about Full Metal Alchemist, send us an email because I'm ready to learn.
And I'm ready to have more Full Metal Alchemist talk.
Yeah. So that was my IQ point for that, and yeah.
Nice. Well, now we have the opening theme, and then it goes to scene 1. They're having dinner, and Penny is excited about the Kim Sandy coincidence at work, and Sheldon is just utterly unamused. Penny takes the high road and takes Sheldon's plate, and then he gives her a chocolate. And Leonard gets a little suspicious of his actions, and Sheldon just claims that he's being nice.
Did you know what it was right away? I knew right away. I'm like,
oh, for sure. Yep. Yeah, I remember the first time seeing that too. It's like, yep, that's
he's
that's
conditioning
right
her.
Oh yeah. Well, Howard enters as a goth, and he says, "What's going on, day dwellers?" And he whips off his jacket and shows his new tats. He invites them all to go to a goth club, and Sheldon makes it a bazinga. You know, I've always wanted to go to a goth nightclub. Bazinga. None of you ever see my practical jokes coming, do you? Then Howard invites the rest of the group out, because he has extra sleeves, just in case it gets caught in a nipple ring. He's always thinking ahead, that Howard. Penny says we'll pass. Howard gets all macho and asks Leonard if the missus speaks for him now. And he's like, yep. Totally. In this case, yep. Then Raj whispers to Howard and apparently gets the term wrong. He says she's pushy and he's whipped. So I'm guessing he's saying pussy whipped, or trying to say pussy whipped.
Oh, I get it. I put a question mark by that because he says that's not how the phrase is
that's
used.
not... yeah, it's like, yeah, she's pushy, yeah, he's whipped, but that's not how you say
it. That makes sense. I get it now.
Yep. Then Howard and Raj leave, and Penny accidentally sits in Sheldon's spot, but catches herself, so she gets another chocolate.
You know, I was going to add in there, too, that I like how Howard, and it plays in a little bit later on, but he says that he likes the sleeves because he can get freaky with can have sex with a freaky girl who's pierced, and then take off the tattoos and still be buried at a Jewish cemetery. And so apparently he has his standards. I get what standards? Goals. He knows what he wants in life, and he's not willing to give up his Jewish burial. So, yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know who is gonna fall for those sleeves. I remember when this episode came out, I saw those tattoo sleeves pop up online, like on Amazon and things like that. I saw that, I was like, dude, that does not look real at all. I don't know who he thinks he's gonna pull, even if they're wasted.
Although it's really dark in the Goth Club, so maybe it's just because it's so dark.
But the moment you feel it, it's like,
yeah, or the tattoo artist must have known as well when that comes up.
I know. I was gonna say, like, once we got to that, I was like, how did the tattoo artist not either that, or he's just being cool about it? It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm getting paid regardless, so whatever. Well, we're now at the Goth Club, and Howard is being super goth. Apparently, he's having a vodka cranberry because it resembles blood. Raj is having a light beer. And apparently there's a Wiki-How on how to be goth, but Raj didn't read it because he's on a John Grisham kick right now. He read the Pelican Brief and then deep dove into the client.
Right into it.
And this is where we go into... I'm not super into lawyer stuff. I'll watch it, but I won't read it.
I was going to say, I've seen them, but I have not read them.
Yeah, not enough lightsabers or magic wands to actually for me to read it.
There's not even one hobbit in them.
Yeah, or a homunculus.
Yeah.
GTFO.
Grisham, get your shit together.
Yeah, man. Well, this goes into my first IQ point that I found. I actually looked on Wiki-How on how to be goth.
Oh shit!
There actually is a Wiki-How on how to be goth. So for any of you out there who want to be goth or just want to learn more about how to be goth, this is it. Granted, I don't know how accurate Wiki-How is, but I have used Wiki-How for like household stuff, so must be real, must be true.
Gotta believe it if it's on Wiki-How.
Yep. So this was a pretty long article. It's very extensive, so I just kind of hit the highlights. But if you're interested, just Google it. So there are 4 steps. So first step, listen to goth music. Basically, this is the learning of the subculture part. For the newbies to the goth world, you'd be called a baby bat. And then you should understand the different genres of goth music. There are 4, there's about 4 major goth music genres, but then from there it kind of branches out to like other sub-genres. There's death rock, which is American goth music that formed around the time of the traditional UK goth rock came around. It's characterized with spooky atmospheric offshoot of punk rock, which consists of glam rock imagery, punk sound and attitude, shock rock theatrics, and B-movie inspiration. Then there's dark wave, which is an offshoot of the goth rock formed in the 80s. It combines elements of synth pop and new wave, incorporating dark, introspective lyrics and an undertone of sorrow. Then cold wave, which is it's just described as a subgenre of dark wave. And then ethereal wave, which is another subgenre of dark wave that is described as gothic, otherworldly, and romantic. And then like I said, it branches out from there. Now step 2, dressing the part. In a very large nutshell, you wear black, you dye your hair, wear makeup, and accessorize. Thrift and DIY. Step 3, getting into the mindset. Create a comfortable gothic environment in your home. Read gothic novels, immerse yourself in the subculture, start a band, go to museums, etc. And be true to yourself. It's about expression. Don't let others bring you down. Develop your own sense of style. Then, the last step is getting involved with the community. Go to Goth festivals and events. Learn the Goth slang. So here's some Goth slang that, I mean, if anybody out there listening actually is Goth or was once Goth, let us know how accurate this actually is. Because like I said, we just found this on Wiki-How.
We're baby bats.
I'm a baby. Well, that's if we're trying to become Goth, you'd be a baby bat. So we know how you're having your midlife crisis.
Yes. I'm going to start wearing a lot of eyeliner and dark clothes now.
Yep. Well, there are Goth points, which is a fictional point system, which every time you do something particularly gothy, for example, listening to Bauhaus while doing your hair in shade of ebony, adds points to your card. Then there's a Goth card, which is a fictional card which scores Goth points as shown above. Like we mentioned earlier, there's a baby bat, a new person and willing to learn member of the subculture. And this is different to a poser. Goth in a box, a term to describe someone who dresses in complete outfits from Hot Topic. This is frowned upon as Goth has its roots in individualism and DIY. So do not stop off at Hot Topic, apparently. Then there's the last term is Batcaver, a frequent visitor of the 1982 nightclub The Batcave, but now refers to someone who is an older Goth and was a fan of the music played there. So let us know if there's any other terminology out there that we should know about. What would help Howard and Raj in this situation?
Bauhaus do a song I really like called Bela Lugosi's Dead. And it's like, I don't know, I've always considered it like a staple of goth culture. But the reason I bring it up is, for some weird reason, 3 bands came together on a live show. I don't even know where the live show was, but did this song. And it was Trent Reznor, Peter Murphy, and what are they called? TV on the Radio. And if anybody likes Bauhaus or that song or Trent Reznor, who is, if anybody doesn't know, the lead singer to Nine Inch Nails, they do an amazing job of Bela Lugosi's Dead, and fun time. But I would say I get 1 point for being goth just because I love that song so much.
All right, you got a Goth point.
Yeah, recommendation. Listen to that song. It's gothy.
Nice. Well, that's all I had on being a goth.
Being a goth? I think I was more goth in like high school. I wore a lot of black. I did have eyeshadow and eyeliner.
Do you have a picture? You should send me.
Somewhere.
I'll post it if you want me to, but I don't have to post it. I would love to see that.
You know, there's a fine line between like South Park gets into this too, right? Emo versus
the emo
goth.
kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I was like somewhere in between, and I think I wore enough dark.
Because what was it? The goth subculture like really big in like the 90s. Like
I think so.
I feel like it hit, and then emo kind of hit in like the early 2000s.
Yeah. Goth
and then
was,
it turned into hips, and then it toned down even more and became like what, hipster?
Which I'm probably a hipster now too.
Yeah.
Look at this beard.
And I'm nowhere on that spectrum.
I just follow the fads as they come. I'm a conformist.
Yeah, I was a little poser in middle school, wearing like the Jinko jeans, like trying to be a skater. I didn't skate though. I was a little poser. I'll admit it. And we just lost every subscriber now. Rob's a poser.
Wow.
Poser.
Poser and a. Wow, we are tools.
Yeah, I remember everyone was always like, "You a skater or you a G? Oh, then you a poser." Like, I don't know what any of these mean.
I'm a baby bat. just let me fly.
All right. Well, Howard says that they're Lost Boys, And I love this that Raj just cheerfully asks for Chex Mix. We are Lost Boys. Can you pass the Chex Mix?
Which
well, they start.
Oh, are you still there?
You go. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, my screen kind of went off for some reason. Okay, I'm back.
Right.
Yeah, Lost Boys. That's I guess this is an IQ point, but it's from the movie Lost Boys. That's what I'm taking. And the phrase Lost Boys comes from Peter Pan. Peter Pan and his band of kids in Neverland are the Lost Boys. But in the movie Lost Boys, they're a group of teenage boys, Kiefer Sutherland included, who have been turned into vampires, and so they never age like the kids in Neverland. So I'm guessing it's kind of that goth vampire feel being Lost Boys. But other than that, I'm curious if anybody had any other thoughts on why they're calling themselves Lost Boys.
I kind of took it as that too. Like, I thought of the movie Lost Boys with the vampires and everything like that. How it's, they're vampire, it's gothy, they're lost souls.
They live in a abandoned hotel that's collapsed under the earth and drink blood from a wine thing and wear a lot of jewelry. And there's the guy
totally
with the
Raj and Howard. The sexiest of instruments, the saxophone.
Yes. That scene rocked. So goth.
Well, they begin speaking with two girls, and they notice Howard's ink. They buy them a drink, and they request 2 light beers. Well, Wiki, how do you do about that? We meet Bethany and Sarah. Not that anyone cares. Bethany is played by Molly Morgan. And I looked at her IMDb, and the last thing that she did was in 2020. The Misadventures of a Man-Eater. Otherwise... and then random shows, Dexter, Bones, 2.5 Men. But I take it you saw her IMDb.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but she does come back.
Actually, I didn't notice that, but...
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's in 2 episodes of Big Bang Theory, but she is uncredited. Or at least no name as the next one. So I'd like to think that she's the same character.
Yeah.
In my own headcanon, it's the same character.
Although one of them, I want to say it was Sarah. Man, I can't remember what show it was, but I noticed that in one show, I want to say it was Gossip Girl or something.
Pretty Little Liars.
Maybe it was Pretty Little Liars.
Because you like that show, that's why I made a note of it. That she was on as a tattoo artist.
But there was an episode or a show where she's 2 different characters on the show, and she's in 2 episodes. So apparently, maybe they do come back as different people. But it seems like if it's the same person, just make it the same character, right?
Yeah. Something like that does happen in The Office, too. You're probably not there yet. How far along are you now, by the way?
I'm like halfway through season 3, I think.
Okay, you're not there yet.
No.
But there is a character that comes in, and then like a couple seasons later, he comes back as just like a completely new character. And they basically just said, you know what? We said fuck it. We just like this guy as an actor, so we just wanted him back.
That's actually in Deadwood. If you ever watch Deadwood, there's a guy who comes back. He plays 3 different characters. One, he's the guy who kills Wild Bill. What's his name? Bill. I want to say Hitchcock. That's not right. The cowboy who's known for dying in Deadwood and having the dead man's hand. Does that sound familiar?
I've never seen Deadwood. I've heard amazing things about it. I just haven't gotten to it.
Bill.
And honestly, at the rate that I'm going, I probably won't. So, sorry.
So Wild Bill Hickok is like a real person who was a sheriff or something. I'm really bad with history, but he was killed, and I believe he was killed in Deadwood. Yeah, he actually was killed in Deadwood, and the show starts off kind of with his character being in Deadwood, and technically he died with a poker hand consisting of black aces and black eights, 2 pairs. So if anybody ever gets 2 aces and 2 eights, it's called like a dead man's hand, and it's supposed to be bad luck, I think. I don't play a lot of poker, but he was shot having that hand. But anyways, the guy who killed him, he's been in other shows too. I want to say The Middle, maybe? No, not The Middle. I can't remember. But he comes back as a serial killer. And so he's the guy who kills Wild Bill, and then he's executed, I believe. And then he comes back as a serial killer, and I think he gets killed as a serial killer. And then in the movie, he comes back as like an angry street guy yelling at somebody, like a mob mentality. And I'm like, it's that same guy just playing three different
Wait
people.
a minute.
What?
Maybe it was written in his contract that you're going to be around for so long. It's like, oop, accidentally wrote him off. Let's bring him back.
Oh man, we killed him again. I'll just make a new character.
Ah, you bastard. Well, Sarah is played by Sarah Bueller. She was in Night Court, The Orville, Criminal Minds, Jane the Virgin, and like I mentioned, Pretty Little Liars. So both of these two have not been in anything really that significant.
I know I've seen them both in things. I just don't remember them, but I know I've seen the shows they've been in. So
yeah,
they turn up. They have a healthy IMDb page.
Well, now we're back at the apartment, and they're watching an anime, Oshikuro Demon Samurai. Not an IQ point, but I did a little bit of research on this, but this is not a real show.
This was my point, half an IQ point that I was doing. So I looked into this too, because I was curious. I had never heard of it, and I'm like, that's weird that I've never heard of it. But it's because it's not a real show.
Yeah, it's a reference to 2.5 Men, when Charlie and Jake are making a jingle. And if you want to YouTube it and get a bop stuck in your head, go for it, because it actually is very catchy. The actual audio of the show that they're watching is from an anime called Boogie Pop Phantom. But it was really hard to tell. Like I said, I had to look it up.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it, so but I know Boogie Top Phantom. I've been wanting to watch it. It's about a school that's like haunted by the Boogie Top Phantom, and yeah, kind of death mysteries. And but again, I haven't seen it, so I'm over summarizing.
Yeah.
But I want to. It always sounded really cool to me. Boogie Top Phantom.
Yeah.
That one and Paranoia Agent are like high on my list, I believe.
Well, Penny keeps talking through the movie, and Sheldon gives her a look. She stops talking, and she earns another chocolate. And then she gets a phone call, and then she decides to take it outside, thus getting another chocolate.
Which
she leaves.
Apparently, this phone call is the lady who had to leave work and was replaced with Sandy, who's married to Kim, right? So
yeah.
Technically, it's
like you'll never guess what happened. Well, Leonard pauses the show because he's like, "Dude, I know what you're doing. You're using chocolates as a positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior." And I love this. He's like, "Very good, Leonard. Chocolate." He starts trying to use it on him. And then I did an IQ point on the operant conditioning techniques.
I'm curious what you have, because this became something where the more I looked, the deeper the rabbit hole went, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm curious what you have.
Well, do you want to go first? I've been kind of hogging.
Sure. I'll see what I can do. So I went with a website called verywellmind.com that had quite a bit of stuff, and structural leasing.com, I believe. But basically, what we're talking about here is conditioning, which was Jumpstart, at least known mostly by Ivan Pavlov and his dog. And this is Pavlov's dog, where he basically gave the dog some food, rang a bell, gave the dog some food, rang a bell, and after a while, the dog associated the bell with getting fed, which meant that when the bell rang, even if he wasn't getting food, he would start to drool like he thought he was going to get food. And this, like at the end of the 1800s, so the 19th century going into the 20th century, a lot of different research was being done on conditioning like this and how it influences people. And we get Thorndike and B.F. Skinner, which Sheldon mentions, but we also get John Watson that he didn't mention. John Watson was known for the baby Albert experiment, and again, this wasn't mentioned, but it's whenever I think of conditioning, this is where my mind goes to, and how brutal psychological experiments could be. In this case, if you don't know baby Albert, he was basically put, probably not a cage, but a pen with a white rat, and every time he got up to the rat, or the rat came by, they would ring a bell really hard at him and scare him. So he began as a baby to associate the rat with that horrible noise. And this is actually a lot of criticisms have come from it, because the notion is technically this experiment caused harm. It caused psychological harm, that there was a fear created that wasn't there. And there's a lot of studies or suggestions that although conditioning, Sheldon says that this is harmless, but technically by using aversive cues or negative reinforcement, even with positive reinforcement, there's this notion that it can correlate with phobias, anxiety, depression, or even cause chronic pain, which kind of means that Sheldon's wrong, that when you start manipulating stuff like this, you are manipulating the person in a way that could actually create harm. I also looked into Thorndike and B.F. Skinner, and this is where things got kind of confusing for me. I understand Watson doing the baby Albert thing, I understand Pavlov with the dog, but apparently Thorndike was kind of doing the same research, but more on an educational field, and how learning behaviors come from positive and negative consequences, and that kids or people learn based upon consequences, and if they have a positive outcome, they learn to do something again. If they have a negative outcome, they learn to avoid that. B.F. Skinner, it seemed like it was the same thing, that childhood behavior is influenced by positive and negative reinforcement. Now, what the difference is between that and the positive and negative consequences, I'm not exactly sure, but both of them were working more based on how kids develop in education styles. So that's what I had. I'm curious what you came up with.
Yeah, you actually captured a lot of it really well. You actually expanded to the other types of conditioning a lot better than what I did. I kind of just looked into what is operant conditioning and how is it applied today. Going back to what you were saying about operant conditioning and the effects of behavior with children, I didn't look into that, but I kind of just looked into how it could do that. Their studies were actually... So this is actually called the law of effect, and that's kind of how it's different from other conditioning tools, where this is basically... It's saying that the negative and the positive reinforcements are a cause and effect. That that their mind is being shaped by cause and effect. So the study that Thorndike did was actually with cats. So it was involving the learning in cats. So he created this puzzle box that put a cat inside of it. And then they had to find their way out of it. And once they got out of it, they got a piece of fish. So then the moment that they were out of it, he picked up the cat and put it back in. So then the cat eventually learned, hey, the faster I go through this, the faster I get to that piece of fish. So they're learning that positive reinforcement of hey, if I keep doing this, I keep getting something good. So it's the law of effect. Granted, he didn't describe what happened if something went wrong, but so that I cannot comment on. But that's the difference where I think what I learned was that the key factor of this type of conditioning is that the association is based on the result of the subject's behavior and the outcome that it generates as a secondary effect. Whereas classical conditioning, like Pavlov's dog, can be more of a reflexive thing, more biological. So that's the I learned is the key difference between the two.
Kind of the consciously acting upon the consequence versus subconsciously just the reflex.
Correct. Yeah. So we see this in parenting all the time, and it's something that I'm talking to other parents about, because it's only going to be a matter of time until I need to start doing this with Hunter. But so you can see all of this conditioning applied at parenting, school, work, and even relationships. So in parenting, you can give your child a piece of candy every time they clean their room. You can let them play video games once their homework is done. Or if they're misbehaving, you end a play date a little early. So there's positive and there's negative. At school, they use stickers to lead up to a larger reward. They get pizza parties if a certain number of students score high on a test.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
Read enough books, you get a pizza.
Yeah, exactly. I did that. Yeah. So I don't read a lot now, so I don't know how well it really helped.
But I now connect Pizza Hut with reading books. Like, it's in my head.
every time I see a book, I need to go get a pizza. But that's more classical. Or a student can get a detention every time that they're late. And then we see it at work. We get bonuses for hitting quarterly numbers. We get suspended if we miss work too many times. And then in relationships, your partner can cook your favorite meal every time you do all the chores. And this type of conditioning has also been applied to behavioral therapy. These techniques have been used to improve symptoms of certain mental conditions, such as obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, phobias, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, and panic disorders.
You know, I once read that there was a study done. I wish I had more information on this, but they were basically working with children who were illustrating signs of, you know, it's not called sociopath, but they were sociopaths, psychopaths. It's like personality disorder. But basically, these kids were showing signs that they did not consider other individuals as real, and they could not have empathy or sympathy for others, and therefore they don't feel guilty for what they do. If they hurt somebody, it doesn't matter because that's not a real person anyways. So with you know, you can see how this can become dangerous, that people become serial killers because they don't feel like they're actually hurting somebody. They're the only one who actually exists in the world. And to work on this with kids who are showing signs of this, they were using positive reinforcement. So basically, they can't force the kids to have actual authentic emotions, but they can condition the kids to think of the positive outcome when they do something nice for other people. So it's not necessarily they're being nice because they feel bad for somebody, like they don't stop and help somebody across the street, but they do it because they know that their mind considers it as they will be rewarded for acting good like that. So it's interesting that these educational methods do work with mental health issues as well as just learning and, you know, salvatating or getting out of a box for a fish.
Yeah.
I like that. We have to teach them to have fake emotions. I'm like, that's terrifying. But, I mean, it makes sense. So.
I know. I wonder what they grew up to be like. Oh, God. Ryan, is it you? Is
It was.
You?
It was me.
I'll send you a cookie later. You're doing good.
I'm good.
Ryan, do good.
I'm a good boy. I'm good. Give me my cookie.
Anything else on operant conditioning?
I think that's all I have, and I like what you came up. I think it made things make more sense, so I'm glad you were able to explain some of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, Sheldon says that he is certain that he can get her to jump out of a pool balancing a beach ball on her nose. And I like that he's like, I'm not being literal. I'm not suggesting we really make her jump out of a pool. I thought the bazinga was implied. I'm just tweaking her personality, sanding off the rough edges, if you will. And Leonard is upset at this and forbids him to continue on this behavior. And I laughed so hard when he pulls out the water bottle. Bad Leonard! Bad Leonard!
That made me laugh
So,
hard too.
yeah.
Bad Leonard.
So now we're at the goth club, and the girls ask what the guys do. And Howard is, to me, is just leaning in way too hard on being a goth. It's like, oh, you know, goth stuff, goth magazines, goth music. And Raj chimes in, goth food.
Goth food.
And they're just like, no, like, what do you do for jobs? Well, they continue to be weird and lean into goth things, like the dark sciences.
Dark sciences.
Like, whoa, what are the dark sciences? Astrophysics and space station engineer. And they think that's really cool. And dude, that's really cool jobs. You could say that anywhere, and that's a cool job.
Mm-hmm. But they're
And
trying
the girls
a little too hard here, even though they have pretty cool jobs.
Yeah. And this is what we've been saying kind of before. It's like they actually do have good personalities for the most part. At least once you get beyond like the veil that is Howard, he actually is like a decent human being. He's just very misguided. So if they actually just like leaned into like their true self and actually shined the way that they are, they could have been very successful.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point of the show, is that they don't know how. They're nerds and they don't know how.
Socially awkward.
Yeah. And we find out that the girls work at the Gap, and this continues the whole runner of no one caring about Sarah. They leave the club because it's boring, and they go to a tattoo parlor.
I did like at the end when he goes, did you bring the black condoms? He goes, they're in the fanny pack.
Yeah. Which are very stylish now. So they're at the tattoo parlor, and Raj asks, are you happy now? And Howard says, no, not particularly. And now we're back at the apartment again, and Penny is still outside talking to her friend, and we get another bazinga from Sheldon. He said, Leonard says, what could she possibly be talking about for so long? And Sheldon says, obviously, waitressing at the Cheesecake Factory is a complex socioeconomic activity that requires a great deal of analysis and planning. Bazinga.
Bazinga.
Kind of a dick thing to say.
I was going to say, that was kind of a dick thing.
I've worked at restaurants before. It actually is a very complex socioeconomic activity.
Yeah. And there's politics involved, and...
backstabbing, and...
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
With kitchen knives.
Time to send you more cookies, Ryan. Ryan, good boy. Just calm down.
No knife, Ryan. Eat the cookie.
Yeah.
What?
Well, Sheldon wants to up the ante and start using negative reinforcement. But not by spraying her in the face with water, but with mild electrical shocks. If he does, he can have her trained before they go to bed. And then Sheldon tries to convince Leonard to get on board with the training, but he says no. And he uses her high-pitched laugh, and he says that he can make it lower. That's right. She comes back and his voice gets lower, and then she gives her a chocolate, and then her voice gets lower, and then she gives a chocolate.
He asked her to repeat. He's like, say what? Come again?
Yeah.
Freaky. Freaky. Freaky.
Freaky.
Freaky.
Have a chocolate.
Have a chocolate.
And Leonard's just like, what the fuck?
His facial reactions were really good. They were spot on too. Freaky.
Well, back at the tattoo parlor, Howard is on the table about to get some ink on his lower back. Well, he's down if it gets him cheap sex. And his mom will never find out because she takes his temperature orally now. Ay.
And I have to add here that, he was saying that he wanted to be buried in a Jewish cemetery, but he's kind of gone back on that. It's like, whatever it takes, but...
Yep. He has his priorities.
Yeah, priorities. I was trying to think of that word earlier.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Well, he can't choose between the Screaming Devil and a Little Mean Skull or Kermit the Frog. And Bethany... Yeah, and Bethany wants him to get the mean skull, and then she could try to make him smile. Skull, please.
Skull, please.
So I did an IQ point on the most popular tattoos in the United States.
Ooh.
I thought this might be interesting, because as he's like kind of flowing through a book and everything like that, it's like, oh, what are the most common ones? And why is she knocking on Kermit the Frog? There's nothing wrong with getting a Kermit the Frog tattoo. It's all about tattoos are all about expression.
I would
so
say
if you want Kermit the Frog,
pretty goth.
Yeah. Well, maybe you put him drinking a bloody martini.
Bloody martini out of the
extra cranberry. Yeah. Kermit drinking out of school. Hee-haw. Well, I found this data on Insider.com as of August of 2022, Singular.com as of June of 2022, and TattooForAWeek.com. Every site had a different top list, but these were the most common top contenders based on Google search data. So these are the average number of searches on Google monthly. So I guess it doesn't necessarily mean... I guess it's assuming that they Googled it and then they went out and got it. For all we know, they all backed out last minute. But shall we start with... I did top 10. Is that too many?
Let's do top 5. I think 5's good.
All right. Top 5. Number 5, snakes. Number 4, flowers. So it's like roses or lilies. It kind of just puts it all together. Number 3, dragons. Number 2, and this is where it's a little bit of a cop-out because we just said flowers, but number 2 specifically is roses.
You can't have flowers and roses. That's a cop-out.
Yeah, but yeah, they're all on the same websites. Number 1, butterfly.
Yeah!
The old butterfly tattoo. Why, do you have one?
No, I just know that every time guys never said it to me, but every time a woman's like, I'm thinking about getting a tattoo, I'm like, it's going to be a butterfly, isn't it? Yeah, how'd you know? Because I don't want butterflies.
So, listeners out there, who's got oh, yeah?
And she was thinking about getting a butterfly as well. I'm like, that's cliche. You don't want to do that. And finally, it came to me that and I'm like, what was that?
Sorry, I was going to ask, does the butterfly have significant value to her?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty, I guess, and I think it's so common that she accepts it, so I don't know.
I don't get butterflies. I really don't. I don't know if it's a guy thing that I just don't understand it, but all I see is a winged bug.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But the other night, it came to me that she, if she got one, I think it would suit her to get the butterfly from The Last Unicorn. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen that in a long time. The song is still on my playlist, though. I do really like that song. It's a very soothing song.
It's who did the soundtrack? America?
I always get off Pure Moods. I also just knew that song, so I just Spotify'd it.
I think what's his name also the guy who did the Kermit the Frog song.
Really?
Was it the Kermit the Frog song? I know he did the Winnie the Pooh song. Who is that?
The Rainbow song? Rainbow Connection?
Who did Rainbow Connection?
Taking it to Spotify. Yeah, America.
Did The Last Unicorn?
Yep.
Who did it wasn't Rainbow Connection. It was Pooh Corner is what I'm thinking of. Kenny Loggins also did a version of Last Unicorn. Yeah, he's really well known for doing a version of it. But anyways, the butterfly at the beginning, when the unicorn finds out she's the last one, she's talking to a butterfly, and it turns out that butterflies only speak in riddles, so it's like giving all these word games and is not giving a straight answer, really starting to piss her off, and it's like just kind of laughing, going back and forth. And I'm like, if you get a butterfly, that one makes sense for you, Mom, because you're kind of wacky. So, and the movie's really good too, so it's a special connection. And that I think that's important for a tattoo, to have a special connection to it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, how many do you have?
Technically 3.
Oh.
But one kind of got incorporated into another one, so maybe 2 at this point.
Okay. You get any more?
Maybe. I think it'd be kind of cool to do a sleeve, but I
well,
can't think...
snake
a snake,
flower, dragon,
butterflies, roses. I did everything in one sleeve.
I did it all. I am a walking cliche.
With the power of these cliches combined.
Yeah.
How many do you have now?
I haven't gotten any more in a while since I was back in Washington, but 1, 2, 3, 4? I don't know, you kind of lose track, and then some of them just kind of merge together as one.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm
Technically
3, but...
I do have a dragon,
merged.
though, so...
You do have a dragon.
I do have the dragon one. That's the one, like, yeah.
And he's holding roses.
I'm surprised hearts aren't on here. Where was hearts? Yeah, no, hearts were not on the top 10, which is
Wow.
weird. I have a heart, too.
Huh. Yeah, you would think hearts, like, especially like with an arrow through it or something, or
Yeah,
or even
something.
like the Jesus heart with thorns wrapped around it. It's like really big too, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
but that was not listed on any of these sites.
weird.
Yeah, at least not in the top 10.
Not tough.
Yeah,
Or maybe it's
yeah.
people
They're
who actually get there and then decide to get a heart after they've Googled
and they
butterflies.
the old reach around.
The old reach around.
That's not it. It's funny. I said that. Christina didn't know what that meant, but I had to tell her. I was like, I made that joke. I was like, but not that. He's like, why? What do you mean? I was like, ooh, time to educate you, girl.
Would you like a chocolate?
And then we haven't spoken since.
That was the end of my marriage.
Yep. Yeah, other noteworthy designs actually on the list were hearts, the infinity sign, stars, Celtic symbols, skulls, tribal art, and dolphins.
I could see dolphins. I've known a lot of people with dolphin tattoos.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, yeah. But, all right, any other tattoo stuff?
I think that about covers it.
Well, Sarah asked Raj what he's going to get, and loved the snark. With my luck, hepatitis.
You know,
And
that
Howard can't...
remind me of one time I was getting a tattoo, and I had a side bag with me because I had been I was in LA, and I was kind of sightseeing. I had a saddle bag with me, or whatever, a messenger bag, and I went into that tattoo parlor. I went to sit down, and I put the bag on the floor, and the guy goes, "You don't want to put that on the floor." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Things spill out of people." I'm like, "Oh God!" So it was in my lap, and so when Raj said,
And you
hepatitis,
stayed there to get a tattoo?
like, apparently it's all tattoo parlors. It's just part of it. I mean, like, you're basically it's an open wound, so.
But they don't clean and sanitize it enough to, like, feel good about people
I
putting
guess
their bags
not.
on there? Oh, man. I feel like the places I went to were pretty clean.
It looked clean. I mean, I didn't think of it, but, you know, even knowing that there had been whatever on the floor at one time, I don't want to put my bag down there, even if they did Clorox bleach the whole place.
I know.
It's kind of like when you stay
Do
at
a sanitation bomb.
Yeah. Hotel, and you use the UV light and you see all the spots. You know, they clean the sheets, but you still see the spots.
All right. Well, Howard can't handle any of this. The rubbing alcohol is too cold. The stencil hurt him. And then the needle. He freaks out and they come clean. The girls get mad and they leave. And it finishes the runner of no one caring about Sarah. And then Raj says, when we retell the story, let's end it differently. And Howard says, like, what? At a big musical number? And I like the in the background, the tattoo artist is just like staring at them, just shaking his head, like, these fucking guys. Well, now we're back at the apartment, and Sheldon is turning in and making himself some warm milk. He requests that they be quiet if they engage in any amorous activities, and Penny says, of course. And Sheldon then throws her a chocolate.
And she catches
Which kind
it
of
in her
goes back to
mouth.
the imitation of dogs and everything like that, which I thought about Pavlov.
Or like what he says, we can teach her to jump out of the water and
Yeah.
shoot a ball. I'm like, he's halfway
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, he really is. Well, they're going to turn in, and her new bed arrived. And she tells Leonard that if he builds it, they could stay at her place. And at first, he's very resistant because it's like, it's late, it's a lot of work. But then they won't have to be quiet. Boom, let's go. And Sheldon says, oh, interesting. Sex works even better than chocolates to modify behavior. I wonder if anyone else has stumbled upon that. And then we end at Raj's car. Howard and Raj are trying to get on the same page of how the night went. The girls they met had 2 friends, and they smelled good, like jasmine and honeysuckle. They got tattoos because they're bad boys. And they're like, whoa, but if we end up in the hot tub, we can't be in the hot tub. We don't want to get infected. Yeah. Well, either way, they both had a menage with sexy goth girls. And they're like, wow, what a great night. And then there's like a little bit of silence, like, that's not going to work, is it?
I like the scene.
Let's try a country bar.
They were bonding, and it's like they're making up this story and just jiving like, yeah, we're cool. As far as friendships go, this developed that, and they just I love their friendship. I think it's great. So great scene.
They're best friends, and they kind of talk about that off screen, but now that they're actually showing like what they do on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I can relate to that, making up stories like, oh, this day didn't go quite like I planned it to, and then like with a good friend, like making up like stories or something like, but this did happen, like encouraging and making each other feel better about the events of the night. I thought that was great.
Well, they're gonna try a country bar tomorrow. All right.
I wonder how they smell.
The end. That was it. That was the Gothowitz Deviation.
It was a solid
great episode. Yeah. Let's count the old IQ points. We had 4 IQ points.
I only gained 1 point today, and it was for not like Sheldon. So we are at 72, me not like him. 75, me like him. Me like him.
Yeah.
Me like cookies.
No stabby, I got cookies. Cool. Well, anything else to add?
No, and I think you mentioned it, that this was entering the Halloween season, and I kind of started watching the next episode. It's like start mentioning Thanksgiving right away. So I'm excited because I love holiday episodes, so I'm excited for what holiday episodes come. And last season's Christmas episode was fantastic too, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I was telling Ryan before we got started, I got super sick the other day, and so I just needed something comforting on, and I know I told myself I wouldn't get ahead of watching Big Bang Theory, but I got like 4 or 5 episodes ahead.
It's
from here,
tough.
Just because
it's
like
really
I need,
tough not to just keep going.
Yeah, it's getting into the good stuff too. It's getting in like really good episodes. But you'll just have to wait and see. All right, well, thanks again for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And don't forget to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We will see you next time when we talk Season 3, Episode 4, The Pirate Solution. Thanks for listening. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Cole. Thanks for listening.
I'm a star.